Hey everyone, how are you? Good afternoon or good morning or good evening whenever you're watching this. This is Kendra Tanner. I'm back here at Urban Zen's Yoga Studio and I'm streaming this live for you guys here in Swansea as well as the global True You community. So hello everyone. I'm going to keep this one short and want to really just jump in here to address one of the most common questions that I hear that represents how fear can show up in our life. And it goes like this: what will they think of me? This is something that can be so debilitating because with any fear reaction, it can either send us into a fight mode, which looks like trying really hard to prove ourselves and get the acceptance and the love and again, the love and acceptance that or validation that we're seeking from the world. It can also spiral us out into flight mode, which means running away from situations, not putting ourselves out there, hiding and covering up our true authentic self in order to be a version that we think is going to be more lovable and acceptable in life. It can also put us into freeze, which is what happens when either running away or fighting and trying really hard we don't think that's going to work. And so freeze might look like just not participating in life. Like maybe it's just not even pursuing our dreams, not even connecting to ourselves, just kind of going through this robotic motion, doing what we know how to do best without actually consciously thinking about it, which can keep us stuck in the patterns that we're in. And so I want to just offer some really simple things that that question of what are they thinking of me and what will they think of me is running through your head, that might be able to help you shift away from the fight or flight or out of freeze back into a more grounded and centered version of yourself, because that is the fun part. That's why we're here, is to be ourselves. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be watching this. So to just kind of break down that question of what are they thinking of me a little bit more so that we can understand what we're actually dealing with here. That, for me, it boils down to basically two things we're talking about. We're talking about fear of failure and fear of rejection. And I think they're really closely related, because the fear of failure, aside from our own ego getting busted, the only other reason that I know of why we wouldn't want to fail is because then other people's opinions about our failure. So when it doesn't feel good for ourselves, if we're falling, if we've set out to achieve or perform or just have a baseline integrity with ourselves, and then we know that we're not living up to that own integrity that we have for ourselves, or if we're not meeting those expectations that I talked about a couple of videos ago, so we have our own sort of self-judgment and self monitoring, I suppose, about how we are living our life. And so when we are not meeting our own expectations, or we're not in integrity in ourselves, then that could be seen as our own version of failure. Then, of course, there's the other version of failure, which is when we're not stacking up to the way that other people are measuring us. And that sometimes can be the more scarier version, because that leads to the next thing of then, what will they think of me, and will they still accept me, or will they reject me? And so it's that rejection piece that I think is the critical thing that we really try to build our lives around a lot of times, of how can I make sure that I'm not rejected, and how can I, because we're basically, the beauty of being human is that we thrive on connection and we thrive on relationship. And so a lot of times we will do whatever we need to do to make sure that that is not cut off. So if this is something that feels pertinent to you and you're wondering, well, how do I stop living my life so that I'm not so worried about what other people think of me? There's two things that I want to offer you. One is to check in, how do you think about yourself? Because a lot of times the story that we're telling ourselves that somebody else is thinking about us is actually how we view ourselves. It's not necessarily reflective of what other people are actually thinking. It's our own version and our own self-critic and the own lens in which we see ourselves, which can be very different for other people. So just to use our physical self as an example here, right? And because this is so easy to do, we can look in the mirror and all we see is our imperfections, and all we see are our flaws and how we need to lose this weight or tighten up here or change something on your face or whatever it is, whereas somebody else might be looking at us and they're not actually seeing that, right? All they're seeing is our smile, and they're seeing the shine on our face, or they're seeing just the softness that we carry, or they're seeing our strength, or whatever it is, right? But no, we just see our imperfections. So one thing that you can start to do to stop worrying so much about what other people are thinking is to figure out, what are you thinking about yourself, and how can you be more accepting of who you are? And this is something that I talked about in last week's video too, about our inner critic. So that might be something you want to check out, and that's why that's so important. The other thing that, and so that's bringing our attention back on ourselves and building ourselves up from the inside out. The other thing that we can start to do is actually take our attention away from ourselves, which might sound a little contradictory to what I just said, but hear me out. Because if you think about it, when we are worried about what other people are thinking of us, all of our attention is being sucked into this vacuum here, right? It's sucked into here because my eyes are not going out there, they're going out and boomeranging back onto me. However, what if I just let my eyes go out there? And so what if I took the attention off myself and put it onto the other person? And as soon as we start to do that, what happens is we shift from a place of fear and into a place of love. And so we can, if we are showing up into relationships, whether it's with our family, whether it's with a stranger on the street, whether it's with you guys that I don't even necessarily know who's watching this right now, right? But if I am here because I want to bring my version of myself into this relationship and have it be an expression of love and be my most authentic self, right? Then all I'm worried about is you and the connection, and what can I bring to you, right? And how can I help you, and what my experiences and the things that I've learned, how might they help you, and how might they create a positive ripple effect into the world? And so that's something that you can start to consciously do. So if you're in a situation where you're starting to feel a little bit unsettled, or you can tell the worry is starting to happen, is just to think, wait a second, what if I just brought my attention onto the other person? How could I serve them right now? How could I contribute to their life? How could I make a difference? How could I help them? How could I be some kind of version of love for them? And so perhaps that looks like just listening and actually really tuning into what they're saying without trying to fix them, without trying to feel like you need to have the answer. Because as soon as we think we need to have the answer, then the whole judgment, shame thing can pop up of, oh crap, I don't have the answer. But no, if I'm just listening with open arms and an open heart, then that's enough, right? Or maybe another version of love is actually, do you know what, I want to, maybe it's just like a bit of humor, right? And so I can lighten the situation, or I can tell them a funny story, or share an interesting fact with them, or some kind of other thing that you could bring and contribute to your life. And by the cool thing that happens there again is twofold, right? So one, we're giving, and we're contributing. And when we do that, because if that action is within integrity to ourselves, and we're being authentic in that action without needing anything in return, but just a free expression of love, we're reinforcing our own sense of self as well. We're building up our confidence and building up our self-esteem. And so it's like a win-win, right? Because now I've given that person something, and I've done something of value, and I'm recognizing and owning my own value. And so now that question of what will they think of me dials down, because I've just reinforced my own value, as well as not even worrying about that in the first place. So that is like the bullet version of how to shift from fear to love, when that question of what are they thinking of me comes, in any anxiety or worry attached to that. So I'm actually gonna keep this one super short and leave it there for you. If you try this for yourself, I'd love to hear how that goes and if anything changes for you. If you want to talk about anything, just leave a comment. Tag me in it so I know that you'd love to comment, because otherwise I might not see it. And also to mention that what the topic I've just talked about, this idea of shifting from fear into love, is something that is an integral piece to the program Your True You Journey and the book that I wrote. So the program is opening up again. September 30th is going to be the date here in Swansea. So if you want to participate in that and you feel you could be using more self-love and external and giving love, more confidence in your life, more courage in your life, then please get in touch. Enrollment is open and would love to have you on the course. Okay, talk to you guys soon and catch you next week. Bye.